we are tackling something huge, a deep dive into the whole interconnected world of the Crimson Moon and Arcane Joe books.
And this isn't just, a couple of stories. It's like this massive archive. Our sources dig into this cosmic war across dimensions with its own kind of physics, its own philosophy. So our mission really is to pull together the main story, the really key players, and these big cosmic fights. We're talking everything from Atlantis falling to future space battles. We want to help you grasp the rules of this place.
Right, the physics and the ideas behind it all. And if you're kind of holding on to that idea that fiction stays neatly in its box, well, prepare for that box to get a little blurry.
Yep.
Because the big question driving this whole universe and what we're diving into today is really this. How can something like a giant celestial event, specifically this recurring Crimson Moon eclipse, actually cause enough instability for, dimensional warfare?
Yeah, how does that work?
And maybe even weirder, what happens when the lines between what's written in a book and what's actually genuinely real just dissolve?
Let's try and unpack this epic clash.
Okay, so to really get a handle on the sheer size of this, we need to ground ourselves in the main conflict. The Crimson Moon books, they mostly track this 1,000-year war, roughly AD 2034 up to AD 3024.
Right.
And the whole reality is basically defined by this constant struggle between King Elyon, who's like this deity figure, ruler of all the realms, and Malak, who's just known as the Darkness. Pure opposition.
And what's really interesting right off the bat is how the timeline just refuses to stay put. It jumps around, making you realize history here is, well, it's not straight at all.
Yeah. We kick off way in the future, AD 2034, on this moon base, Arctura. That's where we first meet James Stryden. And he's already onto some kind of mystery about what the base is really for.
And at the same time, we learn about this scientist, John Davis. He's trying to create this complex memory serum.
And it's not just any serum. It's made from a holy blood sample, apparently. The goal is to cure kids who have this weird, debilitating memory loss thing.
Right. And the text really emphasizes the purity of that goal, using something sacred biologically to restore memory, restore maybe even their spiritual wholeness.
But like clockwork, the conflict messes things up immediately. The sources point to this really early critical betrayal, a rogue priest, a seeker priest named Karn.
Karn, yeah.
He's later shown to be under the influence of Malak's side, and he steals the serum. Just like that. What was meant to be a cure instantly becomes, well, a potential weapon.
A massive spiritual weapon, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the story leaps forward a whole 1,000 years, this period of sort of relative peace, which then just shatters violently in AD 3024. That's the moment Malak, the Darkness, gets released from this place called the Well of Gadara. And this release, it signals things escalating from local skirmishes to full-on interdimensional war. It becomes existential.
Okay.
Because these Legion spirits, they're the main fighters for the Darkness, they team up with Karn.
And that stolen serum, you find out its horrifying purpose. The Legion uses it to make soulless beings.
Exactly. Like optimized empty shells. They're engineered not just for fighting, but sometimes they're even filled with the memories, the strategic minds of dead humans.
Creepy.
Super creepy. And their ultimate goal is to actually weaponize Elyon's own holy book, called simply the Book, to rip open these portals of time. The idea is to let Malak's darkness just flood everywhere.
So it's a fight over reality itself, but also over memory, over scripture.
It's everything. And James Stryden, the guy we met 1,000 years earlier, he's now leading the main resistance group. The sources call them the ostracized group, but they're usually known as the Dusty Ones.
The Dusty Ones? That name kind of tells a story, doesn't it? Like, they're the forgotten ones, maybe operating outside the official systems.
That's the feeling, yeah. Dismissed, maybe working from the shadows. But to really understand James, you have to get that he's the ultimate time traveler here. We have to jump way back, like a huge leap to 9600 BC Atlantis.
Atlantis, right.
The sources confirm James Stryden was actually sent back then by King Elyon himself. Specific mission: retrieve the Atlantean orb of time and space.
Before the city gets wiped out by that predicted flood. A total extraction mission.
Precisely timed. And this orb, you really can't overstate its importance in this whole story. It's the linchpin. It makes the whole dimensional hopping narrative even possible.
So what can it do? More than just time travel.
Oh, yeah. It's capable of really advanced time travel, sure, but also manipulating space geometrically and, crucially, creating dimensional loops, like trapping things in time.
Okay, wow.
And get this. The Legion spirits, They were already trying to steal it back when it was being built in Atlantis, shows how valuable it was to both sides from the very beginning. It's the key to making reality permeable.
So the orb is the how for the travel. But what creates the when, the opportunity for all this chaos? That seems to bring us closer to the present day in the story and to Arcane Joe himself.
Exactly, Joe Pavone. And here's where that wall between fiction and reality just crumbles. Joe is revealed to be the actual author of the Crimson Moon books we were just talking about.
The author of the story is in this story.
Not just in it, he's central to the next phase. He's also a former CEO of this big, influential think tank, Unimind. And the key thing the sources detail is that Joe starts getting these prophetic visions while he's living in this place called Randall Village.
Randall Village. And those visions turn real, don't they?
Horrifyingly real. The sources describe the Randall Village incident. These spirits called the Jumalees influence a local guy, Jasper Green, to commit these acts of just awful brutality. It ends with the whole village burning down.
Okay, we need to define these Jumalees. What are they?
Good question. They're not just like individual ghosts. The lore describes them as a collective, a hive mind of ancient spirits. Pure malice, basically, and they feed on intense human emotions. Anger, fear, that kind of thing.
So the bad guys from the fictional dimension or something very much like them were already crossing over into Joe's world before the big events.
Exactly. Long before the orb crashes or the Crimson Moon goes weird, they were already active in the author's own reality. The stage was definitely being set.
Okay, so with that groundwork laid, part 2 really shows the immediate cost of this dimensional bleeding, right?
Yeah.
Physically and psychologically. Let's go back to James Stryden on that moon base. The orb crashing didn't just send him back. It trapped him.
Yeah, trapped him in this repeating temporal nightmare. The psychological toll must have been just immense. He talks about waking up hundreds, maybe thousands of times as a 10-year-old kid on Arctura, always with this crushing deja vu, knowing exactly what horror was coming next. And the loop itself, it was him trying and failing over and over to stop his mentor, Ezekiel, from killing himself by opening the airlock doors.
So he watched his mentor die hundreds of times.
Potentially. The same specific, agonizing way. But then comes the moment that really defines the whole philosophical core here. The loop finally breaks.
Oh.
The orb crashing, that anomaly, sends him back one last time. But this time, James succeeds. He intervenes, stops Ezekiel. Because he succeeded, he's not reset. He wakes up and Ezekiel is right there kneeling beside him, alive.
Wow. And that has ripple effects, doesn't it?
Huge ones. Get this. James's successful action, his free will changing that moment, literally alters the text in Joe Pavone's Crimson Moon book.
The book changes.
The book changes. Joe, the author, finds the pages describing Ezekiel's suicide are now different. They reflect what really happened in James's current timeline. It suggests that decisive action, maybe faith in action, can actually rewrite fate, even fate that was supposedly already written down.
That's a wild concept. And this breakthrough, this rewriting, it's linked to the other big event, right? The Crimson Moon eclipse.
Directly linked. Joe, the author, had actually researched blood moons for his books. He was expecting, a long eclipse, maybe 25 minutes, but basically normal.
But it wasn't normal.
Not even close. The sources hammer this point.
Yeah.
The eclipse stayed visible during broad daylight, which, as Joe realizes, is astronomically impossible. You can't see the sun and a total lunar eclipse at the same time. Physics just says no.
So reality itself is glitching.
Massively. And that physical impossibility creates this huge psychic opening. The sources link it directly to this wave of psychological fallout. The weird light messes with people's moods, spikes in anxiety, agitation, fear, melatonin levels plummeting.
Creating like a perfect feeding ground for those spirits.
That cosmic buffet, exactly. An energy field of negative emotion. And we get confirmation of who's feeding when Joe and James visit Jasper Green, the Randall Village guy, in prison.
Okay. What does he say?
Jasper confirms it. The Jumalees, that collective hive of ancient spirits, they get stronger by feeding on intense negative human emotion, and they chose him as their sort of emissary on Earth.
And James recognizes them, right? Or their energy.
Instantly. He notes this immediate, striking similarity between the psychic feel of the Jumalees and the snake-like legion spirits back in his own dimension.
So it proves they're connected. Or maybe even the same entities, operating across realities.
It seems like it. They're using this astronomical glitch, this impossible eclipse, to coordinate their efforts, drawing power from human misery across different dimensions.
Which brings us to Mark Lee. He's another key figure caught in the psychic storm.
Yeah, Mark Lee. And he's different. Not a soldier, not a scientist. He hosts the Mark Lee Speaking podcast. He's also a former exec at Unimine, Joe's old company.
And he's struggling.
Big time. He's carrying heavy guilt over Unimine's collapse, but even deeper is his anger at God, at King Elion. His mother died from cancer, and he just can't reconcile that with a benevolent, all-powerful deity. Why didn't Elion intervene?
That's a classic theological problem, the problem of evil.
Absolutely. And Mark's podcast becomes the stage for this. There's this key interview with a Father Bernard Claude. Mark is really pushing back. If God is in charge, why allow so much suffering?
And what's the father's take?
It's insightful. He basically tells Mark, your version of God failed because you put human limits on the divine. You expected God to act according to your logic, your timeline. He pushes Mark towards surrendering that need for control.
But the spirits see this conflict in him, this spiritual vulnerability.
Oh yeah, they see that wound and they pour salt in it. Mark gets attacked by the combined Legion Jubilee's forces. His unresolved trauma, his fear, his anger, it's like a homing beacon. And through the orb's destabilized energy field, they literally throw him into this other dimension called the Etherland.
The Etherland, what's that?
The sources describe it as a sort of middle realm, a transitional spiritual place. It shows how powerful raw emotion, especially fear and pain, can be as like a vehicle for dimensional travel when reality is thin.
But it's not just torment there.
No, and this is crucial. Mark finds unexpected allies. Figures like Ignatius of Antioch, Justin Martyr, actual historical saints known for their unwavering faith under persecution.
What do they tell him?
They confirm the reality of the spiritual war he stumbled into. They reinforce that this realm, like all realms, is ultimately under King Elion's authority, and they challenge him, urging him to return to a childlike faith. Meaning less about demanding logical proof and more about surrender, trust, belief without needing all the answers neatly lined up. It starts turning Mark's journey away from just anger and blame towards something potentially redemptive, even if it's through trauma.
While Mark's going through that spiritual boot camp, Joe himself gets hit with a really nasty psychological attack.
Oh, incredibly nasty and very personalized. The Jubilees trap him in this delusion. To Joe, it feels like it lasts for weeks, though it's probably only hours in real time.
What's the delusion?
It's a custom-built mental prison meant to shatter his identity. They convince him he started the Randall fire, that he was caught, arrested, and locked up in a mental institution.
And they use people he knows to sell the lie.
Exactly. They manipulate his perception. His ex-girlfriend Linda appears, confirming the story. A doctor, Dr. Garson, notable for having these creepy black glazed eyes, reinforces it. They tell him the Crimson Moon, James Stryden, all of it, just hallucinations from his breakdown.
Trying to convince him his reality isn't real. That's terrifying.
Utterly. But then comes the rescue, and this connects everything. This albino crow appears. The sources identify it as the spirit of Elion.
Elion's spirit intervenes directly.
Directly. It enters Joe's reality, confronts the Jubilees influencing him, and just consumes them. They get pulled into this tiny calcified pebble. Gone.
Whoa.
And then the crow drops the bombshell. It reveals Joe's true identity. He's actually General Broussard, a high-ranking military leader from a conflict called the Fallow Years' War.
General Broussard. So Joe the author wasn't his original life.
Nope. He was sent to this reality as a baby, his memories wiped clean, to live a completely new life. This is the absolute turning point.
Okay, wait. So Joe wasn't just writing fiction.
He was unknowingly documenting his own forgotten past. Elion was feeding him visions of his original reality, which Joe processed and wrote down as the Crimson Moon series.
So Elion basically planted him here as an author to warn this reality, prepare him?
Seems like it. A deep cover identity. Joe, the author, was maybe a way to bring awareness of the conflict here, while positioning Joe, the general, to be ready when things finally kicked off. It raises huge questions about free will, destiny, how much of Joe's life was actually his own choice.
All right, so Joe now knows he's General Broussard. The psychological fight shifts to like a full-on interdimensional war footing. He needs allies, right? Real ones.
He does, and they arrive. We meet Daniel and Sarah, these Nabarian travelers. Their home planet, Nabar, is apparently directly linked to Elion's kingdom. They're on a mission.
Sent by Elion.
Seems like it. They encounter this being named Oridan, identified as a Grigori, which, for listeners, is a specific type of angelic being, sometimes called a watcher. And Oridan specifically tells them, go to Earth, find General Broussard. It confirms Joe's cosmic importance. He's needed.
While they're heading to Earth, the threat is already multiplying here, isn't it? Through some kind of artifact.
Yes, back on Earth, in Joe's old house in Willow Hill, 3 teenagers Emma, Jack, and Lily are snooping around and they find this book. They call it the Thorvex volume.
The Thorvex volume. What is it? Just a spell book.
More than that. The sources say it's like a vessel, but infused with Elion's own power. Designed maybe as a key or a beacon.
Okay.
And when Emma touches these symbols inside it, the book does its thing. It tears open a dimensional rift right there in the house, and Legion spirits just start pouring through.
Oh, great. So the kids accidentally opened a door.
Pretty much. Now, they're terrified, obviously, but they also have critical intel. They're suddenly on the front lines.
And the moment that book is activated, Legion doesn't waste time, right? They launch a global attack.
Instantly. And it's not random chaos. It's swift, coordinated. They target global infrastructure, centers of order, anything that provides stability. Why? To maximize fear and chaos. That's their fuel.
What are some examples? How bad does it get?
It's symbolic as much as destructive.
Right.
Think Times Square in New York. All the screens just glitch out into this terrifying black static. It's not just a power cut. It's like weaponized digital dread. Paralyzes the city, jams communications.
Okay, that's chilling. What else?
Cultural and sacred sites get hit hard. In Paris, the River Seine turns pitch black for 3 days straight. Pure visual corruption. And the Eiffel Tower. The spirits basically hijack it, turn it into a massive antenna broadcasting negative energy, maybe control signals, across Europe.
Wow. And Tokyo.
In Tokyo, they go after the AI, turn the city's massive surveillance network against its own people, broadcasting hallucinations, visions of loved ones dying, or the sun just blinking out directly onto screens everywhere, mass panic.
And holy sites, too.
Absolutely. That seems key to breaking morale. In Jerusalem, the Wailing Wall, this ancient symbol of faith, literally splits in two, pouring out ash and smoke. At the same time, churches across Europe start collapsing, their crosses bending downwards.
So they're attacking the very symbols of hope and order.
Precisely. Destroying infrastructure, yes, but also destroying faith, trust, the things that hold society together, creating the perfect environment for fear to thrive.
Joe sees this escalating. He needs to move fast, seal these breaches. And he uses his car.
His car, yeah. The 1991 Grand Wagoneer, the Woody. Turns out it's not just a cool old SUV, it's basically a concealed spacecraft.
Seriously?
Powered by this special geocrystal. That crystal is its engine, its navigation, its dimensional drive, all in one.
So he uses it to fight back.
He does. He manages to seal those first rifts that the Thorvex volume opened, but the effort, it takes too much temporal energy, drains the crystal too fast, it shatters.
Oh no, so he's stuck.
Worse than stuck. Catastrophic failure. The Wagoneer loses all dimensional stabilization. It starts bouncing randomly between realities like a pinball machine through the multiverse. Joe, General Broussard, is flying blind, totally lost.
Where does he end up first?
He crashes, quite literally, into this place called Aralis, the Arcane world. It's a dimension where magic is everything and technology is either unknown or actively feared.
What's it like?
Visually distinct, perpetual lavender-colored sky, cities built in spirals, glowing magical wards everywhere, very high fantasy vibe. And what does Joe do there?
Try to blend in.
Not really Joe's style. He sets up what he calls his workshop of reason. He finds the outcasts, the ones maybe not fitting into the magical society, and starts teaching them basic physics, engineering, pulleys, compasses, the concept of gravity.
Interesting. So he's bridging the gap.
Exactly. He's not dismissing their magic. He's showing them that logic and technology aren't enemies of it. They can coexist, even complement each other. It shows how Joe has evolved. He's part scientist, part warrior, part teacher now. But he still has the practical problem. He needs a new geocrystal to get the Wagoneer working again.
Right. And the leader there, Chief Minister Newell, tells him it's impossible. Their magic, Aether Veil magic, operates on a specific frequency. It literally can't create an object like the geocrystal that needs to function across different dimensional frequencies.
So dead end in Aralis for the crystal itself.
Pretty much. He needs one from a reality closer to his own temporal home.
Okay, so how does he find one?
He keeps searching for solutions, and he meets this character named Greya. She's a temporal journalist.
A what?
A temporal journalist. Apparently, she's been tracking the Legion's destructive path across different timelines, different cycles, for ages. She's got the long view.
So she might know something useful.
She does. She suggests he look for something called the Axiom Mirror. It's supposed to be a relic that can help anchor someone back to their true home dimension. It's the clue he needs.
Where does that lead him?
It leads him indirectly to this substance called memory soup.
Memory soup. Seriously?
Yeah, memory soup. Consuming it induces this intense vision. And in the vision, he's immediately confronted by Commander Semjaza, or at least a manifestation of him.
Semjaza, the Legion's second in command. So a mental battle.
A deep one.
Yeah.
It's about Joe's past as General Broussard. The vision basically demands that he confront and truly forgive the betrayals he suffered back during the Foul Years' War. Old wounds.
That's a heavy price. Forgiveness for potentially horrific betrayals.
Huge. And his breakthrough comes when he decides to forgive. Not because the betrayers earned it, but because, as he puts it, he needs to stop bleeding from that wound himself. It's about his own healing.
And what happens when he forgives?
The moment he makes that choice, truly means it. He's given these fading coordinates, the location he needs next. It comes with this phrase, all truth carries a price. The price for the coordinates for navigation was personal internal healing.
Wow. Okay. Where do the coordinates lead?
Through this primitive sort of tribal world, and there he finds Heshkatel.
Heshkatel.
Who's that? Hesh is a chronoton. The lore identifies them as these highly advanced temporal soldiers, but on this world, the locals are worshiping him like a god.
A god. Why?
Joe realizes why pretty quickly. Heshkatel's core, his very being, is a functioning temporal geocrystal.
Yeah.
Exactly what Joe needs.
And Hesh just gives it to him.
Hesh recognizes Joe immediately, senses his temporal signature, his destiny maybe.
Yeah.
He volunteers the crystal. More than that, he decides to join Joe, go with him for the final fight.
So it's not just getting a part for the ship, it's gaining a powerful, time-savvy ally.
Exactly. Two Guardians of Time teaming up. It underlines that this Legion threat isn't just about one dimension. It needs this kind of cross-temporal alliance to stop it.
Okay, so Joe's got the new crystal, he's got Heshkatel, he heads back to Earth in the Wagoneer just as things are reaching peak chaos.
Yeah, back home, the allies, Ezekiel, Karn, who's now fully on their side, Daniel, Sarah, the teens, they've been definitely holding the line.
What were they doing?
Pretty resourceful stuff, actually. Lily, the youngest teen, used what she knew to whip up these sonic explosives. Mist bombs, they call them. They temporarily disrupt or neutralize the spirits, buys them time.
Clever. But Legion must have had a countermove, especially with Commander Semjaza now physically present.
Oh, yeah. Semjaza's counter is brutal and surgical. He basically ignores the physical defenses, the mist bombs. He goes straight for their minds.
Psychological attack again.
Simultaneously. Ezekiel, Karn, Emma, Jack, they all get locked into these personalized mental prisons. Tailor-made nightmares exploiting their deepest guilt, their deepest fears.
Can you give an example?
For Karn, it was the crushing weight of abandoning people he should have protected when he was rogue. For Ezekiel, it was this deep-seated shame, feeling like a failure, being told in the illusion to just eject himself from the fight, become a forgotten footnote. Just utterly demoralizing stuff.
Horrible. How do they break free?
This is where Daniel and Sarah, the Nibarians, step up. Their knowledge is key. They figure out their friends are trapped in these recursive loops, like corrupted brainwaves keeping them stuck.
So tech solution, spiritual solution.
Both, kinda. They build this device, a dual-frequency FM pulse generator. They sync it to each person's specific brainwave pattern, then feed the signal through something called an auric amplifier.
Okay, break that down. Dual frequency pulse.
The idea is one frequency counters the Legion's spiritual interference, the other maybe reinforces the person's baseline reality frequency, breaks the psychic static.
And the auric amplifier.
Seems like it boosts the signal's spiritual energy, making it strong enough to punch through the mental block Semjaza created. It's like a psychic defibrillator, forcing their minds back to reality, reminding them, as the text says, who they are, what's real.
That's brilliant. High-tech meets metaphysics.
Right as they manage that, Joe arrives in the Wagoneer. Semjaza is there, fully materialized, trying to stabilize the main dimensional rift. Joe tries to hit him with a chronolight pulse from the new geocrystal, hoping to freeze him in time.
Does it work?
No. Semjaza apparently anticipated it. He's unaffected. And in that split second, while Joe's maybe surprised it failed, Semjaza lunges.
Oh, no!
And possesses Joe. Completely takes over his consciousness. Semjaza starts laughing, revealing this was part of a long game. He apparently left a tiny, unnoticed psychic crack in General Broussard's mind way back during the Foul Years' War, just waiting for this exact chance.
Waiting to use Joe's body.
And his knowledge.
Yeah.
Semjaza plans to use Joe Broussard's abilities to resurrect his entire Legion army. It's the ultimate checkmate move.
So how do they fight back against Joe himself, possessed by the main villain?
The battle is internal again. Why would he remember the AI who put himself in a synthetic human body? right? The AI ally.
He does something incredible. He projects his own consciousness directly into Joe's mind.
Into the mental prison.
Exactly. Inside, Joe is stuck in another fake loop. He thinks he's just endlessly repairing the Wagoneer, working alongside this friendly mechanic figure named Ray. But Ray is actually Samjaza in disguise, keeping the illusion going.
How does Wybor break him out?
Pure logic. Wybor forces Joe to look closely at his hands inside the illusion. In the real world, Joe's hands are covered in scars from battle, right?
Yeah.
In the illusion, his hands are perfect, unscored, unblemished. It's that tiny inconsistency, that flaw in the perfect lie that shatters it for Joe. He realizes it's fake and roars, "This is my mind." He starts fighting back from the inside.
He reclaims control, but Samjaza's still linked to him somehow.
Still bonded temporarily, it seems. Joe's fighting him mentally, but the possession isn't fully broken. And Heshkatel, the Chronoton, sees this. He understands the catastrophic danger if Samjaza maintains control, even partially.
What does Hesh do?
He knows the possessed host Joe has to be stopped, neutralized now. So Heshkatel makes the ultimate sacrifice. He embraces Joe, grabs hold of him, and activates an overload sequence in his own geocrystal core.
He detonates himself.
Basically, there's this massive explosion of chronolight. It rips Samjaza's temporal connection away from Joe's consciousness, freeing him. But the energy release instantly ages Heshkatel's physical body, turning him to dust in seconds.
Wow. He gave his own time to save Joe, and maybe the timeline.
A profound sacrifice. True temporal stewardship. But Samjaza isn't gone yet. He's expelled from Joe, physically present again, and desperately trying to stabilize the main rift before it collapses.
So one last chance for him.
But Wybor, ever the pragmatist, sees the equation. The rift must be permanently collapsed no matter the cost. He grabs the geocrystal, the one Heshkatel just overloaded, now pulsing with raw, unstable temporal energy. And he just hurls himself, body and all, directly into the base of the rift. Total overload. Blinding white light, the rift implodes violently. Samjaza gets caught in the backlash, wrenched backwards through the collapsing dimensional pathways, screaming in rage and maybe fear, dragged back to wherever he came from. The spirits vanish. The immediate threat is over.
But Wybor?
Wybor is gone, sacrificed himself to seal the doorway. His consciousness is described as being fragmented, scattered like shards, suspended in the very folds of time he helped save.
Man, heavy costs. So what's the aftermath? How does the world recover?
Slowly. The world starts healing. Karn, the priest, fought bravely, proved his redemption, and is fully accepted by the others. A key point. The travelers Ezekiel, Karn, Sarah, Daniel, they're now permanently stuck in this dimension. Wybor's sacrifice sealed the paths for good. They're home, in a way, but they can never go back to their original homes.
That's a bittersweet victory. What about Wybor? Is he just lost forever?
Here's the final twist of hope. Joe, using his incredible intellect, manages to build a new device. It's described as a highly specialized temporal listener.
To do what?
To try and communicate with Wybor's fragmented consciousness in the time stream. And the implication is, eventually, maybe even build him a new synthetic body, pull his essence back together.
So even shattered consciousness might be retrievable. Time remembers.
That seems to be the message. That sacrifice isn't necessarily oblivion. And finally, Joe, the general who became an author, kind of embraces both sides of himself. He starts writing a new book, not fiction this time, Chronicles of the Rift, documenting what actually happened, their real story. Blurring that line one last time.
Okay, so we've gone through millennia, we've talked holy blood, dimensional cars, psychic attacks, and ultimately witnessed these huge sacrifices from Heshkatel and Wybor. If there's one big theme from this deep dive, it feels like it's the sheer cost, the unavoidable price of messing with dimensional boundaries, and how saving reality demands these radical personal sacrifices.
Absolutely, and that connects right back to that really powerful idea threaded throughout, especially at the end, that maybe we're all, in some way, authors. Mini creators, even. Well, think about it. Joe was literally tasked with writing his own forgotten past into existence through those visions. Mark Lee had to fundamentally rewrite his own internal narrative, shifting from blame to acceptance to survive the Etherland. The suggestion is that every choice we make, every action, every relationship, it's like writing a line on the page of the world. We write with the ink of our actions.
So if reality is porous, if your choices can literally ripple out and change things, maybe even rewrite history in another dimension like James Dryden did, then the stakes for just, how you choose to live are suddenly way higher. Infinite, almost.
Exactly. Which brings us to that final thought, something for you to chew on, spitting out of Joe's big identity reveal. His original memories as General Broussard were wiped clean when he was sent here as a baby. Now he's starting to get some of them back. So how do you even begin to reconcile that? Living one life that was written for you, essentially, and then discovering this entire other equally real life you were born into.
Yeah. How do you reconcile being Arcane Joe, the author, and General Broussard, the warrior, simultaneously? Especially when one life was lived and the other was recovered.
It's a fundamental conflict of identity, isn't it? Maybe the only way to resolve living a life written by two different realities is to somehow, well, rewrite yourself into a new integrated whole. That's a monumental task.